First time you five have ever been in this house together?
You're not for long.
I heard rumbling noises and I heard people shouting for help and running off the streets as buildings fell and liquefaction rose. And I felt scared and I was trembling so badly because I really wanted to be safer and to be with my family at that time.
I first heard about the February earthquake on Tuesday the 22nd of February when it came across the TV as breaking news. I sat there watching it and immediately phoned my sister Antonia to see if they were okay. When I got her on the phone, she was literally out of breath and she told me that she was running across the town centre from the Richmond area to the Catholic Cathedral area, trying to find her daughter Imogen. Imogen's school had been relocated from the September earthquake to the Catholic Cathedral area. The panic and terror in her voice was just horrible, and she basically didn't know where her children were at the time, any of them. And she was relying on my brother to try and track down her son, and she just kept running, and it was really awful.
I was just at home doing some housework, fairly mundane, fairly boring, but that soon changed, and I could tell straight away that it was a different earthquake to the September one, which was in the middle of the night, and I went outside and I could see liquefaction everywhere in the road, and I just did think straight away, this is much worse than before. I raced around to the preschool around the corner to where my youngest daughter was to make sure she was okay, and I knew then that I had to get to my other children, and they were on the other side of town. I panicked. I didn't want to be at home. I didn't know what to do. I just knew I had to get to the children, and it was going to be really difficult. All sorts of weird things were going through your mind because I was a bit concerned that my daughter was in a building full of bricks, and that until I sort of saw her, I was a bit worried that, you know, there could be some damage there. And, you know, walking along through the city centre to get to my daughter's school, you could see what was happening in the city centre. You could see the smoke, you could see the fire, you could see helicopters, people everywhere just standing there looking aimlessly, not knowing what to do.
It was terrifying because I was just thinking, oh, well, how can this ever happen to Christchurch? Christchurch never has anything like this, except we've already had one, but no one ever expected us to have another one again. And people were always saying, oh, don't worry, there's never going to be another one. But there was another one.
I just froze. I think my mind went into absolute blank.
This is where I was sitting on the day of the February quake. I had just come back from shopping. I was sitting here having my lunch with a toastie, an orange and a cup of tea, when all of a sudden we were hit, and that whole house went from side to side to side. Half the corners fell down, all the books fell down that were there, all the ornaments fell down, and I just sat here absolutely frozen to the spot. I turned around and looked outside and saw what I thought was a burst water main, but in actual fact it was liquefaction coming up out of the ground.
I did see Antonia driving out of the drive and telling me that Lucy was still at preschool, but they were going to keep her there in the meantime, and she was off to find Imogen, who was at school next to the cathedral, which we knew had been quite badly damaged, so that was a bit of a worry. We heard these reports of people being killed in the city and people being trapped in buildings. People described it as a train coming through your house.
So it wasn't until I saw some pupils from my daughter's school walking back with their families that I thought, okay, she's fine, she's safe.
When my parents finally came to pick me up, I was so relieved, and because I thought, oh, it's so good that they're alive.
Well, seeing that we had to move out was quite terrifying, and I really wished it hadn't happened, and I miss all the gardens and where we used to play hide and seek.
Slowly all the neighbours were disappearing out of the street, and the road itself was pretty bad, so lots of potholes and lots of flooding in winter and things like that. But I think the icing on the cake was really when a house in front of ours was burnt down one night back in February, and it was a huge two-storey villa, and it was surreal. And watching this beautiful villa burn to the ground, the flames were higher than the lampposts, telegraph poles, and the heat was something I'd never experienced before. The sad thing was, it was a house that belonged to my brother. He had been gone from a year, so it had been empty, had squatters in it as well. But just to watch this beautiful house being just burnt to the ground, and we were up all night with it.
You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait. Come on, guys. Go. This traffic is unbelievable.
It's just really frustrating just trying to drive home. It's taken us about 20 minutes longer than it should have, just because of the traffic at 5 o'clock rush hour, and coupled with that is all the roadworks and the road closures, which just makes everything just really frustrating, and we're all just hungry and want to get home and get some tea.
The three families lived as a community, and that's something I will really, really miss. In fact, I already miss it now, because we've moved out and we've all had to go our own separate ways.